Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Uh, got another video for y'all today, but before I get into it, I want to just say, I think at the time of recording this, I've got about 35 subscribers or so, which I guess doesn't seem like a lot, but when I started this channel, I had zero. So the fact that 35 people are interested enough in watching stuff like this is pretty cool to me. So I really appreciate that. And I really am going to try and get these videos pumped out as frequently as possible. Today is a pretty exciting one. I spent a lot of time with one of my good friends, Bashir. Shout out Bashir, um, on the electrical system, and I would not have been able to do this without him. So big thank you to you, man. I really appreciate it. If you're watching this, um, and I want to take you guys on a tour, or I guess just show you what the electrical setup looks like. Um, it'll be really useful for, when I'm off grid and don't have access to shore power connections. Um, got this big battery in the back, and I've got some outlets and stuff. And there's one more thing that I am going to need to install to complete it, and I'll do that here in the video. But let me go ahead and show y'all what I've got so far. All right, so stepping into the back here. So underneath this bench is going to be where the battery is. So let me disassemble this really quickly and show you what's underneath. All right, so under this wood piece here, we have the battery, which is a 330 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, rated for 12.8 volts. So good to power pretty much any accessories and electrical things that I might need. On this side, pull out this little drawer here, we've got a Renogy 20 amp DC to DC charge controller. And so for those that aren't familiar with this, because I wasn't either when I was doing this research, this is connected to the car's alternator, and basically what it does is it will not allow this battery to pull more than 20 amps from the alternator, so as not to fry it and leave me stranded on the side of the road. I was doing some research, and my van's alternator is only rated for 80 amps, so I wanted to play it safe and get a charge controller only 20 amps, which is decent enough to charge the battery. And the battery also comes with an app that allows me to check the charge level, current, voltage output, and things like that. Lets me know how much current's being drawn at once and how long until it's done charging or until it's dead, based on what I'm using at the moment. So that is pretty neat. And we replaced a lot of these wires that were too thin beforehand because there was a smaller battery hooked up. And so a lot of the wires weren't thick enough for what we needed. So we bought a whole bunch of new ones, along with fuses and switches. And I'll show you here on the other side, I've got all my switches. Let me move this curtain out the way. So this will be behind the driver's seat. So we've got 3 switches here. This switch will be, and excuse my nails, I just did an oil change today, so they're a little dirty. I apologize. This first switch is going to be between the car battery and the big battery, the house battery. And so basically I have this off whenever the engine's off, so that the batteries don't pull from each other and drain each other while the engine's off. And then whenever I turn the engine on, I turn this on, which allows connection between the 2 batteries and allows the car to charge the house battery. So let's turn that off. Now this next switch here is for all of my lights and my accessories in the back of the van. So let me show you that real quick. So as you can see here, I know these are all in Japanese, so excuse me, but these 3 are for all of the indoor lights. So they're not on right now, but it allows them to be turned on by flipping these switches. So I'll show you here. I've got these little LED strips, and I might end up replacing these, but these are just what came with the van. So I am able to use all these electronics in the back. Also got this little, let's see, kitchen light up here. And then in the shower, I've got a little ceiling light as well. Pretty neat. And then I can also use the water pump for the sink in the shower. You can hear it when I flip this switch. So that's working properly. And let me tell you about that last switch. This one here, this big one, is for the connection to the inverter, which I will be installing right here in this video. This basically just allows me to cut off power to the inverter. Even though it does already have an off switch on the inverter itself, it's just an extra protective factor there. So this is basically the setup, and based on the math that I've done, it'll allow me to use the electronics, if I use stuff at a moderate average rate, for several days, if not a week, without needing to charge the battery. And if I do, I'll just crank up the engine and run it for a little while. So I'm pretty stoked to use this to its full potential. Should be able to last me a pretty good while. And yeah, it wasn't what I needed beforehand. A lot of the wires were undersized, and the battery was just too small for what I'm expecting to power in here. So, well, with that said, let's go ahead to the front of the car so we can go ahead and install this inverter. And this is the inverter right here. So I got a pretty good deal on this thing. I got it for about $130, brand new and sealed on eBay. Now in the store, I believe they're selling for around $280. So yeah, definitely a good deal on this one. And what it is, for those who don't know, it is a 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter, compared to a modified sine wave inverter, which was previously in the van. A pure sine wave inverter basically just allows certain devices to be charged more efficiently. In some systems, it allows audio to sound better and not be as distorted. And it is a good bit more efficient than the modified sine wave inverter. This one's up to 92% efficiency, and the modified sine can only reach about 87%. So nice little increase there. And this will basically allow me to plug in any of my electronics. So it says here, like, appliances, power tools, and computers, and things like that. So basically everything that I'm going to be needing to use in the van. So we will go ahead and take this out of the box and hook it up. All right, and here it is out of the box. So as you can see, it's got the positive terminal here, negative terminal on this side, and then on the other side, it's got the ground connection right here. So on my setup here, I've got the cable already installed for the ground. I've got the negative cable as well, and then the positive here. So when I mount it, it'll end up looking something like that. So let's go ahead and get this thing bolted on. All right, so just finished installing the inverter. Let me show y'all what it looks like. So I have it bolted right here above the switches that I showed you earlier. Got the positive right here, negative goes up there, and then I've got the ground threaded just up there. And I know it is upside down, but that's just how it'll have to be. That's how we had these cables oriented, so it'll be all right. And then on the other side here, we've got the outlets and then the power. So let's go ahead and turn this switch on, which will allow power to go to the inverter. I think I had it on number 2. And let's see if everything checks out. All right, so looks pretty good. System normal, and input level is green, which I guess means good. And then when I'm not using it, I can turn it off from here, but then I can also turn this switch off if I want to. So that's the setup there, and then I'll just put the driver's seat back in its position, and now we'll have power. All right, y'all, so that will pretty much do it for this one. One thing I did forget to mention is that the van does have a shore power plug, like I talked about a couple videos ago, maybe last video, but it's not quite what I want. The wire, I checked underneath the van, and the wire that runs from the plug onto the inside, it's really thin, and I don't think it's rated for what I'm going to want to use, because I'm going to want to hook up a battery charger to it whenever I'm plugged into shore so that I can charge the big one. So I don't know if I'll make a video about it. We'll see, but I'm going to be changing out the plug and changing out the wire as well to a much thicker one, and one that's also adapted for US campgrounds, because the one currently is not. It's made for, Japanese situations. So I'll be working on that here pretty soon, and then I'll be able to hook up shore power. So that should be pretty interesting. But besides that, yeah, I'm going to try and put out a video pretty soon hooking up the AC unit that I bought, which I can now do because I have power. Super excited about that. It has not been the most enjoyable hanging out back here with no AC. It gets a little stuffy for sure if there's no breeze. So I'll be putting the video out on that pretty soon here, but I want to thank y'all again for tuning in and sticking with me as I do these little projects and renovations and whatnot. So stay tuned for the next one, guys. Catch you later.